On episode 62 of BRC and Friends, I sit down with the founders and owners of my favorite Southern California coffee joint, Obet and Dells in Thai-Town, Hollywood. After my recent stint in Southern California, this became one of my offices because of its local vibe, great staff, and that Filipino iced coffee. I sat down with Josh and Heather as we talked about the beginnings of Obet and Dells, building a culture where people thrive, being a Black Filipino family, and my yearnings for a Husky Hot Filipino. You'll just have to listen to get more on that. It was a great conversation, and you'll love getting to know them both. Thanks for being here. Grab a beverage. You can only hope and wish it was a Filipino iced coffee. Pull up a chair and enjoy listening to my conversation with Josh and Heather, founders and owners of Obet and Dells. My name is Bruce Reyes-Chow, and this is BRC and Friends. Each episode, my co-host and I chat with activists, artists, academics, and adventurers to discuss politics, faith, pop culture, technology, and as you will discover, pretty much everything that pops into our heads. This is basically an excuse for us to hang out with friends and colleagues and riff about things that matter. Welcome to BRC and Friends. And welcome to BRC and Friends. I'm so excited today. Those of you that have been following me over the last 6 months or so know that when I go somewhere, I find a place that I love, and then I just blow it up everywhere and share everything. And so when I was in LA earlier in 2023, I was connected to this coffee shop, and I'm always up for a good coffee shop. And somebody said, go to Obet and Dells, and I went and immediately walked in, and it was like, I love this place. And it was connected to a community I was working with there. And so I have been sharing it. I think the mug went on vacation with me this past summer to the national parks. And so for today, I asked if Josh and Heather, the founders, owners, would come on and talk a little bit about it. And so here they are. So I would love it, Josh and Heather, if you would go ahead and introduce yourselves to folks. And either Josh, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'm Josh. We opened Obet and Dells 3 years ago. I've been a food and beverage person for 20 plus years and grew up out here in LA. I think
awesome.
I don't
know. Great. So you're Southern California. That's your
SoCal.
Awesome. But you do have some San Jose roots though, right? Or connection?
I do. I used to go every Christmas to Milpitas, to my mom's sister's place, for like the first 12 years of my life.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm super Northern California, and I had to go to Southern California and spend a few months there before I admitted that Southern California was not terrible. Like, I'm one of those Northern Californians is super smug, and I'm like, the food scene in Southern California, I have to admit, is better. It
goes back and forth. Sometimes San Francisco has the better food, and sometimes LA. It just depends where the chefs are.
I think overall though, and granted, I'm in South San Jose. Not to those of you listening from South San Jose, it's not the best. And so being out there and getting everything everywhere all the time. Oh my goodness, I do love it. Anyway. We can talk about food later. Heather, introduce yourself.
I was going to say, Bruce, I won't even chime in there because I might offend you both, because I agree. I think that we have the best food.
I love it.
I'm fully, like, people said, are you going to go to Southern California again? I'm like, the first thing is not for anything else, but the food though. I could go to the food.
Yeah.
And Obet and Dells. But anyway, introduce yourself, Heather. What's your story?
Thank you. I'm Heather from Obet and Dells as well. I'm actually from the neighborhood that the coffee shop is in. So East Hollywood, Thai-Town. At some point it became Thai-Town. So I'm from this neighborhood. I've walked these streets as a child. So by the way of South Central California or LA as well. So
Okay. I didn't realize that you were right. Like this is your home, like this neighborhood.
Yeah, this is my neighborhood.
You've seen that building itself be a lot of things, I would think, where you are.
I have. I've seen it be a lot of things, but I've also seen it be empty for a really, really, really long time.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll get to the Obet and Dells origin story and a little bit of that in a minute. But I always ask everybody kind of to begin. what has brought you joy recently? And it doesn't have to be like, this is not a toxic kind of positivity podcast, but what's like moved you or brought you joy or something most recently? Heather, go ahead.
I want to say the first thing that comes to mind is family. I think work can be really stressful. So I've been kind of taking joy in being with family. My cousin lives with us. So like being around her, or Josh's parents popped up on us the other day. And yesterday. Yeah. And I was actually really happy that they were here. So I think like little opportunities to just to kind of spend time with family.
Great. Thank you.
I've been kind of finding refuge in.
Great. Thank you. Josh, what about you? What's brought you joy lately?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, honestly, was I was just going to say sunset. Like,
oh, yeah.
Our baby is really crazy and funny and smart and just very interesting.
My bad, Mom. I didn't do that first.
I was actually very impressed that you didn't go kid first. Like that actually. I
was just happy you didn't, because I was like, am I going to say the same thing? Am I going to say the same thing as you?
Bad Mom's Club.
Josh is like, oh no, I have to go second. Oh, didn't take the kid. Awesome. All good. I'm good.
Yeah, it was like, all right, she didn't say it yet.
Oh gosh. Well, so the problem with like hosting these is like I've recorded a bunch of things, so I can't say the same thing every time. So I just hope that there's always like 5 things that bring me joy every week. But yeah, so let's see, what's recently, so I mentioned a few things recently. You know what it's really brought me joy? During pandemic, seriously got into plants, like house plant. You can see, this is a terrible podcast, but they can see plants all back in here. And that was one of the things I loved about Obet Dells. But I, like all the plants that you all see here are all propagated by me. These are like second gen plants. Cool. And that just watching, I'm not a gardener. I am not interested in owning a farm. I don't want to do any of that. But I just love the simplicity of growing house plants. Like they're so easy. Like it doesn't take a lot of work. Like I talk to my plants. My spouse will not talk to my plants when I'm away. Our kids are all out of the house, so that's where we are now. We're like, they're babies, and she's like, they're not your babies.
Yes, I love that you propagate them. That's
super cool.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous because my wife every once in a while will be out and about, and we'll walk by plants, and I'm like, oh, I like that one. She says, is there a point where we have too many plants? And I don't think there is. I don't think there is, but apparently some people are limited in their imagination. So
I get it. And you start seeing plants, you go, I want to grow it, and then you want to take care of it, and then it goes and goes and goes. Like even the shop plants, they're all like most of them are from day one. So
really?
Yeah.
Well, and then they start getting big and
they grow wild.
Yeah.
So
I want cool. My kids have this dream of starting a bookstore, and I said, well, can I have a pop-up plant place in it? And they're like, no, you can't. No.
They said no.
This is going to be our thing, Dad. You don't get to bring your plants in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, all right. So your plants, I love everything about Obet Dells. You walk in, those of you that haven't been there, you need to go. It's in Thai Town, easy to find. The color scheme, the vibe, the local, like when I review things on Yelp, I'm always like, does it feel local? Does it have a good vibe? Is there enough places to sit? Is there Wi-Fi? And then I'm always kind of at the end, and the food and the coffee are also good. So, so you all, it's like the trifecta of I'm as I've shared with you before, I'm a super ube latte snob. Like it has to be, and you all are definitely in my top 3. You're probably 1 or 2. It goes back and forth. You and Heiko Coffee in Hawaii. And then I found another one called 18 Grams in El Grove, but I put them at 3. So you all are that number 1 because I don't go to Hawaii all that often.
I love it.
So tell me, I fell in love with it. Tell me about its origin. It's like, how did this come about? And however you tell that story, Go for it.
You go for it.
Okay. I mean, honestly, we wanted an ube latte, or I did.
Yeah, me too.
And we tried it all the different ways. We did the halaya, which I had a great one in the Philippines. And that's what I was really trying to mimic. In the Philippines, there's this place that does it in a bottle, fresh. Like they have like hot halaya and it's like warmer. And then they
For those
that
don't know what halaya is.
Oh yeah, it's like a cooked down ube with sugar, and that's basically all it is. It's like a ube jam or ube caramel that you
God, that sounds so good.
cook down. You cook ube down with sugar, and that's till you get this really great ube tasting thing. But in the Philippines, they did it warm. They just shook it with cold milk, and then they would put it in the I think they would make it like right there, like super iced milk, ube, and then they shake it and then they hand it to you.
So good.
And it was so good. And we're like, oh, we should add coffee to this. It would be amazing. And then we were doing it. We were making it. And you can't really make it without having this like warming halaya on the side, you know, like it can't just be like straight from the jar. It had to be warm. You had to introduce some milk. So it was like something hard to do with coffee consistently. And
also not having like access to real ube.
Yeah.
So, you know, like that, the actual.
Yeah. In the Philippines, it was like fresh ube that they were using.
Yeah.
So it was like, we don't have that. We tried a lot of different iterations. We did the, usual suspects. We even tried like a ube condensed oat milk that you can buy in a can. And it was good, but like, you're like, it's not, I've had this before.
Yeah.
Or like everyone's doing this. It's the same. So then we came up with our recipe doing it dry, fresh ube, or not fresh, dried,
like dehydrated
ube. It got the texture. We came up with an oat milk that went with it really well.
We started, so I think for us, it's really important to kind of like get the flavor we want, but also use simple ingredients. We didn't want to use halaya that maybe had sweeteners that we didn't really
we weren't sure it was a processed sugar or...
Yeah, we kind of like to simplify that kind of stuff. So we're like, okay, we'll just go with dehydrated ube and we'll sweeten it to taste for us. So we decided to kind of come up with our own kind of like concoction of sweeteners, which is really our oat condensed milk. And then it was just so good and so caramelly that we ended up making that kind of our signature and using it in all of our like our specials, like our signature drinks. So others beyond just like the Filipino iced coffee.
Yeah.
And then we thought about it and we're like, you know what? There's a Vietnamese iced coffee. There's a Thai iced coffee. Like, let's show some pride and like make a Filipino.
That was like
coffee,
the big thing. Like, we're like, we even thought about it. We're like, oh, we're gonna get backlash. People were like, you can't call it Filipino iced coffee. There's no such thing as Filipino iced coffee. But then one of my cousins who lives in Hollywood too, he came and he was like, no, but the Filipino iced coffee was invented here in Hollywood. And I'm like, yeah, that's
cool.
That's
right. Yeah. Well, and I will say the funniest thing to hear people, your baristas every once in a while just yell out hot Filipino, just always makes me laugh. And I'm like, here. And they're like, yeah, we've never heard that before.
I'm laughing because Josh does the exact same thing. He'll be like, yes.
Yes.
I mean,
you might as well just call out the Josh. And then...
Exactly. If you could make a Husky Hot Filipino, I would be all over that. That would be... There would be like Husky Boy Hot Filipino coffee. Yep, there you go. That's me. So how did I love that drink. I think one day I had 3 of them, which is probably not good for me, but it was so lovely.
Yeah.
But
you're not the only one.
How did Obet and Del start? Like, did you all like, I don't know your history or anything, but when you all met, did you like, hey, let's start a cafe? Or, I mean, how did this all even come to be?
It's actually a cool story. I mean, we're in food and beverage. That's where we met. We met working at the Hollywood Bowl, doing a lot, like working really hard over there. And we work for restaurant groups. And, like, we've always been in food and beverage. So this was kind of like It's funny. I don't know. We never even thought about it when we got together. We were in food and beverage, burned ourselves out doing it.
Yeah.
Like working for other people, making them millions of dollars.
I think once we finally got together, we realized that our lifestyles were kind of unsustainable. And it wasn't something that we wanted to do moving forward. You know, we didn't want to have that schedule, have that stress, have that lifestyle, be working super late at night, early in the morning, and kind of just like cracking our backs for other people.
Right.
And we were like, how can we do something for ourselves that gives us somewhat of a balanced lifestyle?
But before that, even we quit. We like burned ourselves out so much, we quit, and then we traveled for like 3 months. We're like, we've been working all this time for all these years, not spending our money. Let's go. We traveled for like 3 months.
Yeah, we did.
And then that's when we were like, when we come back, we'll either start something like a food and beverage type business, or we go back to work for somebody, you know? It was like, you know.
And I was like, and I don't want to go back to work for anyone. I was doing like backstage catering, like 1 a.m. events after concerts, like.
Yeah. I would do the concert, pre-concert, during concert stuff. Like I did all the concessions over there, and she would do the after stuff. It was like the after party and like all the big events. And it was like, and the Hollywood Bowl is a crazy beast because it's like it only happens in the summer, or it used to only happen in the summer. So it was like a month, 2 months of constant shows every day,
working around the clock.
And you're like making millions of dollars a day. You know, it's like we're going through so much food. It was insane. It was just like a lot of work, but it was one of the best teams I ever worked with over there at that time. Right. It was like Patina had the best team that ran the Hollywood Bowl.
Right. So you all decided to start your own thing, which has its own good and bad, right? I mean, now you're responsible for everything. So how did you decide cafe? I mean, there's tons of cafes, right? There's coffee places. How did you all decide that's the thing?
It was the traveling. So when we were traveling, the first thing we did at any country we were in was get coffee. Didn't matter what country it was. It was like Thailand, Europe. Coffee was the first thing. And I think that was kind of our like, hey, when we go back, we should do a coffee. Like we were like taking little things from different coffee shops. Like that would be cool to have in a shop. There's even like a little French spot. That wasn't even a coffee shop. It was a bar, but we needed coffee in the morning, and it was next to our hotel. We run in, we're like espresso, cappuccino, and we're gonna go. And the guy was like, we're about to just like take it and run. And he's like, no. You need to sit down at the bar.
That's not how we do it here.
Yeah, enjoy your coffee for at least 5-10 minutes. And then then you can go do whatever you need to do.
He's like, what are you going to do carrying this around? Yeah. Just like sit down for a second. So we're like, okay.
He's probably like, cool. You're Americans. You're Americans.
Yeah,
exactly.
But that's when the idea of the bar came up. So when we're like, oh, if we open a coffee shop, we should have a bar where it's not really strictly for espresso, but like this is where you grab your quick espresso, but you hang out with the barista and take 10 minutes of your day, and then you start your day. And that was like, so we have a bar in the shop because of that idea. And then just like little coffee shops we went to, this would be cool if we did it like that. This is how it should feel when you come to a coffee shop like this place. And
the more we traveled, the more we enjoyed finding a coffee shop, talking to the people who work there, and like we realized wherever you go, that's like the one common place. You're going to find the same kind of exchange, the same kind of like community. And we just kind of like enjoy,
like, let's bring that to LA if we can.
Yeah. Know? Or to our area. Cause go ahead.
Yeah. So tell me about the name. And then I want to know, I know that we've chatted a little bit about, you kind of have a philosophy of how you want your staff to be together, how you want things to go, like that it's not just about, you don't want to become the people that people are working for, trying to just work for other people. Like it feels like you're trying to create community in all realms of it. So first, tell me about the name, and then tell me about the culture that you're trying to create there.
Obet and Dells.
Yeah, so the name is my parents' nicknames. Like all their friends call them Obet and Dells, but it's Robert and Delia. And my dad just had the logo, like he designed it like in the 70s, just as for fun. My dad was always drawing. doodling. Yeah, he's always drawing, doodling stuff. So the original logo that's above the front door, like just the font, my dad literally made that by hand for him and my mom, and it was just like just like my dad's weird. Like he'll put it up, bring it to his friend's house, like this is Obet and Dells, or like if they had a party at their house, it would
Be by the door.
it would be by the door in a frame. Like,
That is awesome.
And then like
Well,
all the things,
I was going to say that is awesome because it super gives off that 70s vibe. Like it is totally.
Yeah.
And I was like, they got a great designer. I mean, as I was thinking about whoever they hired to do their branding and design is amazing. And look at that.
I mean, and then Heather does most of the branding, and then my cousin, the logo with all the colors. My cousin, who is a designer, like high-end designer, does logos.
Yeah.
Made it more modern, kind of that more feel, adding the colors, the layers. But the font, the original font, my dad
is your dad. I mean, the colors are awesome. I know that you got a little fight because it is the Golden State Warriors colors. So
kind of, it is.
It's more than the Lakers.
We have the clay, so it's not really. But
I don't know. I was sitting around. When I was there during the playoffs, when I was down in the playoffs, there were a couple people like, why do they have Golden State colors? I'm like, I don't know. You better add some. You better put some purple streak in there somewhere, because otherwise,
we have the Filipino Iced Coffee, so that'll be our purple.
That'll be it. All right. Well, tell me about the philosophy of the place. Yeah.
One thing to mention about the logo, though, is the original, the T, the one that his dad made. The T was actually a cross.
Oh.
So
my dad's always been, very religious. Yeah. And the T was a cross. Like, I know he did it on purpose, but he'll never admit it.
Yeah.
But when my cousin redesigned it, he kind of
wiggled it down just a
little bit.
Because I've been to some cafes and I walk in, I'm like, oh, good Lord, a church runs this one. And not one that I actually, and not one that I'm like, oh, cool, it's a great church. It's always like, I don't think I want to give you my money. Yeah.
We went to a church cafe in San Jose, actually, the last time we were out there. It was really good. What was that church cafe?
Good. I won't talk bad about it.
It's in a giant,
it's in like a parking lot. Like, so her friends, they own a bike shop in San Jose.
Uh-huh.
And we were up there because my sister's kid, my niece, was doing some like school program for a week. Like, they do a cool thing where like they let the kids go to the school and see if they like it before they go to the school. Yeah. Like, she's only like a sophomore or junior in high school, so she's like, it was a week of like seeing what it's like in the school. But anyways, her friend had a bike shop in San Jose, so we're like, hey, let's get Sunset's first bike from your friend who owns a bike shop. And then we went to get coffee right before or after, and it was like a church somewhere in San Jose with a coffee shop like next to it. Okay. But it was all run by the church. And it was actually really good coffee. The coffee was
but were they playing really bad Christian music in the background, or were they doing sometimes like that's my giveaway. I walk in there and I'm like, oh good Lord, like this is not good music.
Actually I don't think they were. And if they were, they didn't notice it. So it wasn't.
Yeah. I was actually surprised because I went in there with those notions, like, all right, like I just put coffee in our phone and found something that looked good, and then when I got there, I was like, oh no, because we're like coffee right now.
Well, that's very big.
It was really good.
That's being very open of you. I probably would have looked in and went like, no, I'm shifting. I'm moving on.
We almost did, but we were like, honestly, because we were like, I think we were also driving back to LA right after, so we were just like, I need coffee before we hit the road. Let's just go here.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Great. Actually.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It ended up being.
Well, okay. So tell me about the culture. Like, you're trying to create something, not just for when I walk in as a customer that it feels like a vibe, but I know your employees and you kind of want the whole experience to be different. Yeah. What's that about?
I mean, to kind of say it in a simple way, we just want our employees to be happy. We don't want anyone to be miserable working for us. So we treat them.
You're right. You think everyone wants that.
Yeah. So we treat them like they're human, and we ask for the same respect. We're small business owners. I think that people see it as a big operation, and it's not.
Right.
So we just have to constantly remind them that, hey, it's just us too. So treat us how you want us to treat you. But also, I think the biggest thing is we both come from, and like we've worked in places that we quickly realized we didn't want to be. And for us, we always say, we'll tell them we want you to be able to stay with us as long as you want to, without anything affecting your experience that is unnecessary. So whatever we have to do to kind of like protect them, make them feel safe, make them feel like they're in a productive work environment, then we're all ears. And I won't say that, and I guess that's the culture, right? The culture is like transparency. Like, let's just be transparent. What do you need? Even if it's like today, we have these one-on-ones every month where we like sit down with each team member and we just chop it up. We just have conversation. And in those conversations, small things come up. And one of our team members, she's new. She was like, "Can I be nitpicky?" Sure, you can. Like, let's do it. What do you need? Can I have a new broom? Because that broom is so cluttered and it makes it just a little bit harder to clean at the end of the day. Because I want to get those corners. We can get you a new broom. I'm on Amazon right now getting you a new broom, So I think like little things like that are just like little opportunities for them to talk to us. It makes it feel better.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, you get better service. So we're about service. Really, it's about service at our shop. Coffee, like it's like kind of like your rating where you're like, what's the vibe? How does it feel? Then it's how's the coffee? But like coffee quality is part of the service. But when you treat your staff well, they treat the customer well, and it just reciprocate. And it's not just a workplace. It's just like a universal thing. And part of our training too is the word "saubona," which is
it means I see you.
It's a word for hello, an African word for hello, and it's I see you, you exist, and that comes down. That's like the core of our service is you just saying hello to someone, making them feel like they exist, because that's what it's about.
It comes through. I mean, I developed in my short time there a relationship with like 2 or 3 of your baristas who remembered me when I came in, and we chit-chatted about their next life stuff. I mean, it was, I think it definitely kind of plays out. So that's great. So let's move on to some other stuff. Again, everybody go there, buy stuff, drink, all that kind of thing. I would say one of the fun things about it was sitting there, and there must that area is certainly gentrifying a little bit, and there's a little bit of kind of, you can feel that tension starting to happen. But the folks that gather, like I sat and there were like 4 or 5 writers sitting around me, like people,
lots of writers,
all the bit, and like I was just fascinated at getting that local, not polished version of what it's like to live in LA. That was, there were a couple of actors, and I was online, and people were like, "Do you know who they are?" And I'm like, "No, not at all, but they're working and they seem like they're fine." Like, it's all like they're doing all the things. Like, yeah, it was great. But anyway, love the vibe. It's great. So it is. This is going to post. This is people listening to this mid-October-ish. It's Filipino American History Month, and so one of the things I'm asking all of my guests, I want to talk. Josh, ask you this question, and then want to talk to you both about Filipino-ness in your relationship and family. But Josh, I'm asking everybody the question about, have you ever felt like you weren't Filipino enough, or have you ever had that interaction with people, or how would you answer somebody if they came to you and said, I don't feel Filipino enough if they're Filipino, like, or if it's the first time you're hearing that, what does that respond to you? But has that ever been part of your growing up as a Filipino?
I probably have heard it before. I've never felt like I'm not Filipino enough. even though I don't even speak Tagalog. You know
I
what
was
I
going
mean?
to say, when we're in the what did
Yeah.
to go?
I guess when I go to the Philippines, that's when I really feel like, okay, I'm not Filipino enough.
He doesn't get any discounts.
No.
Like, I have a Chinese
hookups.
I have a Chinese friend who went out there and lived out there for like 10 years, speaks fluent. This dude is the one who's like getting those discounts. He's like, let me talk to him real quick. And then next thing you know, it's like half price. You know?
I have a friend who's
But-
white who was born there, and so if you were to just not see him, and you just talk to him in English or whatever, you'd be like, oh, he's from the Philippines. But he is, but he's white. But we walk somewhere, and they all look at me, and I'm like, I got nothing. And then he just has to talk, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's interesting because language always seems to be one of the things that people like will proof text your Filipino-ness is, right? Do you speak? Like,
what words do you know in Tagalog? And
yeah.
unfortunately, I lost so much of it because I'm not around it enough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really felt not Filipino enough.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I guess growing up out here, you're already different. So
yeah, that's right. But we've been having conversations about how we're already different enough, and then sometimes we make each other feel different. Like we create these divisions, and every culture has them for sure. But it's like, how do we? But let me ask you, Heather, what is it like to be? I don't know what your connection to the Philippines are, or Filipino folks, but culture. Like my wife, super overwhelming. Like I have a big family. She comes from a small family. Like it was like we joked now. We've been married almost 33 years, so it's fine. But she used to take naps when we went and visited my family because we were so overwhelming that she would just get tired. Like in an hour in, she'd be taking a nap on the couch almost every time because we're a lot. But what has been your like? How has the Filipino-ness impacted your relationship, your family, all that kind of thing?
And honestly, I don't know if this is like Filipino-ness or if it's just like
His family.
well, I guess it's or Josh's family dynamic, but he has like a super forward, like strong family dynamic. There's a lot of strong figures in his family. And I think growing up, my family has always been like a little bit more like, I almost want to use the word flimsy. They're very hard at each other when they're mad. They won't talk. Like my mom and her sisters will just like, they'll just frown at each other until they just crack, like they just, there's really a lack of communication. So for them, it's like, no matter what the issues are, every family has issues, right? But for them, they have like still such a strong bond. So I think it's been very like fulfilling to be a part of his family or to be a part of this family, Yeah. It gives me another lens on what family means. But I also like, even before we were together, some of my best friends are Filipino. So my old roommates and like really close friends. So I kind of like already saw that. And I think, it's just like culturally, I have like really a soft spot for Filipino.
I was laughing when you said his parents just dropped in because that, like for Robin, my wife, and I have one of my sisters who's married to we're both married to white folks, so I think there's also other dynamics. But they're like, does your family just drop in? Like, do they just drop? Like, you guys just randomly drop in on each other? I'm like, yeah, you don't do that.
Oh yeah. No. I'm so used to it now though. And I learned to like love it. In the beginning, I'd be like, oh my God, what do I do? Like scurrying. And then now I'm just like, okay, cool. Where do we meet them?
Yeah. No, it's so, yeah. I don't know if that's like, I think that's like a general Filipino thing of just like, no, we just hang out. You throw up the garage door and you hang out. And we're all gonna have dinner. Yeah, we're all just gonna have dinner now. Yeah. No, that it's funny. My wife, again, we married a long time, and so she's in. Like my mom would choose my wife over me at this point. But as one of my siblings have like married people who are not Filipino, and they've have tried to or dated or whatever, and they've come to Robin as like hoping she would be an ally, and she's like, oh no, you're on your own if you're going to take this family on. I'm in already. You're on your own. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's
pretty much
for themselves. No, me and Josh's brother's wife and his sister, we band together. I think that definitely.
You guys are on your own.
That's awesome. Well, it'll be interesting to see, like my kids, I have 3 kids, and they identify with their Filipino side much more with their white side. And every once in a while, my wife like, you're part white too. And they're like, yes, we know. But the Filipino side is so strong in our family that it's like overwhelming. It'll be interesting. You have a different mix, like how your kid is going to identify and where they're going to kind of blend and everything. Have you seen any of that starting to pop up for her?
I don't know.
Yeah, she's still very both. Because
she's very both. Yeah, she's like right in the middle.
Everything is still, it's not segregated for her. So she's just like, oh, there's my people. Oh, there's my people too.
There's my people too.
Notice. Yeah, she has these like dolls that she plays with. She's really big into like soft dolls. There's this when Josh was out of town, he was actually up in the Bay in San Rafael for some coffee stuff, and we were at Target, and she picked up this Asian male doll, and she goes, Dada. And even now, like it's like a year later, she still associates this doll with like being like dad. And then she'll pick up darker dolls, like her black dolls, and she'll be like mama. Like she sees like that they look like us, but I think culturally she's very much on both sides. She has like really big influence on the Filipino side, and then she also has really big influence, especially like having Black mom on the Black side too. Yeah. And her nanny is Black.
Yeah, and her nanny's Black, so like she sees it all the time, and then
she doesn't. It's just like
she doesn't go this way.
She's still very. That will be interesting to watch.
It's really important.
See which way.
Yeah, it's really important for us that she. And it's funny because I feel like we use the same kind of like mindset for the shop. Like we don't want people to see it as, like some people see it as like just a Black owned business. And then some people see it as just a Filipino owned business. And that's fine. Right. We say like, even for her, you're 100% Filipino. Don't let anyone tell you that you're half anything. Yeah. And you're 100% Black. Well, rep both 100%,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Sweet. I love it. We've already been on almost for 40 minutes. Can you believe that? So I'm gonna wind us down again. Everybody, make sure you go visit there whenever you know. I've actually told friends when they're like, "We're in Southern California," I'm like, "You got to go to Obet and Dells." They're like, "Well, that's like an hour away from where we are," and I still tell them it's worth it. Go. So we're gonna close this section out. So I always ask every guest when they're on 3 questions. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? You can answer one or all of them, and it can be whatever. So if either of you have anything just bursting out, listening to, watching, or reading, anything.
You go ahead.
Man, unfortunately, I'm not reading anything except for maybe magazines.
News, even if it's digital.
Yeah, I do. I watch a lot of skateboarding, honestly. That's like when I have free time and I like get home and I can like decompress. It's either news, and it's usually like satire news, or skateboarding.
Yeah.
I know
some kind of new skateboarding.
I know what you're reading. All he reads about is hydrogen and electric cars all day.
Maybe I do a lot of that right now.
I have an electric car. We have an electric car, and we love it. Yeah. We just had to have the battery. We have a Bolt. We had to have the battery replaced, and I had a gas car for 2 weeks. I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Whenever we switch back to gas cars, like, we have to like get the car fixed. We're like, why would you use gas? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Electric odors. We can be a little smug about it. My kids every once in a while, yes, Dad, we know you haven't pumped gas in 6 months. Yes, we know.
That's so funny.
That's awesome. Heather, what about you? Listening to, reading, watching?
I am reading. I feel like I'm reading a lot of toddler books right now, a lot of kids books and this sort of thing.
Health stuff, a lot of health
stuff. Listening to, what am I listening to?
podcasts.
A lot of, no, I'm listening to a lot of music. We've been creating playlists for the shop.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of music. And what was the third?
Coffee stuff. You do a lot of coffee roasting.
I read a lot about tea. Tea.
Oh, she's in a tea class.
Yeah, tea, and all the fun stuff. Tea and coffee and stuff.
So you all are all in. You're all in. You're all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all in. We're all in.
Yeah. Like
I was just I do Orange Theory, so I'm part of that cult. And there was a playlist, and the coach was laughing. He's like, "Oh, this is called." It was an R&B, like a hip hop playlist, and they're like, "It's called Your Parents' Party," and I was like, "Oh God, those were all my."
It's like the oldies.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm like, those are not that old, but they were.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's what it is. What am I? So right now, I love this game when I play it for myself because I have multiple things I can't repeat. But I just started listening to a book. So my listening and reading is the same. So I listen to all of my books now. Yeah. So I'm listening to Yellowface. Yeah, I'm listening to a book called Yellowface right now, which is huge right now. So good. But I'm at the point in the book where it's going to start getting, like, the conflict is coming in. And so I'm not sure I want to keep listening because I know it's going to get bad before it gets good again. And there's part of me that's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to see. It's fiction. Yeah, really good. Okay. It's I can't give away, but it's kind of everywhere now. But it's called Yellowface, just excellently done. Great book to listen to. The narrator does a really good job. All right, well, thank you all. Thank you, Josh and Heather, for being on. I'm so glad that we had this chance.
Thanks for thinking of
it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And the next time in LA, I will definitely be there, and you'll probably see my Obet and Dell's mug before you see me, unfortunately. But
which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending us those photos.
Oh yeah, no, I going when my family and I, so I was listening, we went on this national parks trip, and so I was just like the backgrounds were perfect. About I was also like, oh great, like I'm not an influencer, so it's not as if I'm doing anything, but I loved it. The white sands with the oh my gosh. Anyway.
Oh, that was amazing. Pretty.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you those who are listening to the show. So glad you're listening again. Do all the things. Go to the place where you put podcast in your ears and subscribe, rate, review, share this, all those kind of things. And we'll see you next time on BRC and Friends. BRC and Friends was hosted and produced by Bruce Reyes-Chow. Co-hosts were Jorge Bautista, Mickey Scott Bay-Jones, Amy Kim Caramis-Parks, and Laura Monaco Heifetz, and the theme music was composed and recorded by Marissa Magdal-Laurent. Feel free to connect with any of us via the show notes. And lastly, please don't make me beg. Take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to BRC and Friends wherever you listen to podcasts. Until the next episode, thanks for listening to BRC and Friends.